Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the In Between the Stitches podcast. I am your host, Brady Wilson, with my co-host, Chase Olschwanger.
Good afternoon.
And we have a special guest here today who's been on the show a couple times, Jordan Swidler. Thank you, Jordan, for being here.
How you doing?
We're doing pretty good. Now, we won't boo Jordan on the podcast, even though he is a Lakers fan. He is not responsible for what happened.
No,
okay?
I'm not. I'm sorry.
And so we're going to kind of flip segments because Jordan can't be here for the whole episode. So we are going to do basketball first, so that way we can get Jordan on the segment. Playoffs have technically started with the play-in. The Mavs put belt to butt last night to the Kings, which didn't watch, but I heard Clay went off.
Yeah. I know Clay definitely needed his redemption game from, a year ago today where, he went 0 of 11 versus the Kings in the play-in. So he's heard that all year. But I had mixed feelings watching the game yesterday. I mean, it's like, I'm not mad if they win. I'm not mad if they lose because I kind of just want the season to be over with already.
Yeah.
Not only that, it's a lot easier just to root for Luka and Luka only when the Mavs aren't playing. So when they're both playing, it's a little harder to root for him when I'm still rooting for my team to win. But no, the play-in is officially kicked off with the 9 and 10 seeds playing and the 7 and 8 seeds playing. The Mavs will take on Memphis tomorrow for that final 8 seed. To whoever wants to lose in 4 to 5 games at OKC.
So the Kings are out.
Yeah, they're done. Yeah. So the way the play-in works is the 9 and the 10 play. The winner of that game plays the loser of the 7 and 8. So the 7 and 8 obviously get more reward because they're a higher seed. So even if they lose, they're not officially done.
They get two chances to get in, basically.
Right. So the Hawks and the Magic played. The Magic won, so the Magic got the 7 seed. The Hawks were the loser, so they played the winner of the Heat versus Bulls game, which happened yesterday, and the Heat won. So now it'll be for the 8 seed, the Heat, and the Hawks.
So here's how the playoffs shake out, as Chase was illustrating for the Eastern Conference right now. You have the Cavs going to face either the Hawks or the Heat. You have the 4-seeded Pacers against the 5-seeded Bucks. The 3-seeded Knicks against the 6-seeded Pistons.
What a comeback year for them.
And then the 2-seeded Celtics, defending champions, against the 7-seeded Orlando Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And then over in the West, obviously, you'll have the 1-seed Oklahoma City Thunder facing off against either the Dallas Mavericks or the Memphis Grizzlies. You have the 4-seeded Nuggets versus the 5-seeded Clippers. Sorry, that new logo threw me off for a split second, and I was going to say Winnipeg because it's what it looks like. Then you have the 3-seeded Lakers, which we'll get into in a second, against the 6-seeded Timberwolves, and you have the 2-seeded Houston Rockets against the 7-seeded Golden State Warriors. So Jordan, obviously, like we said earlier, is a Lakers fan. Jordan, how are you feeling about this playoff series against the Timberwolves?
So first off, I want to say thank you for having me again.
Of course. Anytime.
A few things. So the West is a bloodbath. It's an absolute bloodbath. The East is very top-heavy. West is just kind of insane. I do think the Lakers have a very, very good shot of at least getting to the conference finals. I think we have a good path. We're going to have to probably hit OKC at some point, but we just killed them a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, and if Luka didn't get ejected... very unjustly. I think we would have had a chance to win. We were up by 1 with about 6 minutes left when he got ejected, so I think it was very realistic. I think I like our matchup. I really wanted the Wolves. I thought it was a very good matchup for us. They have a lot of bigs, and that's the only issue, but the thing is, the way we've been playing the Lakers is we've been kind of countering bigs in a very unique way. So what we've been doing is we've been taking guys like Vando, kind of like these bigger forwards, Vando, Rui, etc., and we've been kind of collapsing on the big, basically forcing a double team on the big every time we touch the ball. We're not allowing the big to do anything. We actually think our matchup against the Nuggets would be really good. I struggle with that because I think Jokic would probably be able to, find some open guys better than most people. But I'm not worried about that with Gobert. I'm not worried about that with Nas. I think honestly our matchup is fantastic. I think it's Lakers in 5, 6 at worst. I think it's I think it's a no-brainer.
Come on, no elaborate. You had to be PG here. This is the first take.
I really genuinely think it's going to be a very simple matchup. I think, they might lose a game early on to feel it out. I think that's usually what happens. But having home court advantage is massive. Luka has been playing up to form the last few weeks. I've been very, very, happy to see how he's been kind of. I think that getting that Mavs game where he was in Dallas off his back was big. I think he's been playing a lot better since then, just mentally. And listen, I mean, if Austin's playing the way he's playing, if LeBron keeps playing the way he's playing, I think we can beat anyone. I don't know what'll happen. Obviously, I think it's a very, very tough conference. But my prediction is probably Lakers in 5. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is JJ's ability to adapt as a coach. Last few years we had Ham, who really did not do a great job at adapting when there was adversity or there was issues with the lineup, whatever it may be. JJ cuts all that crap out, and he's very focused on just focusing on the meat and potatoes of the lineup. He picks the best guys. He has them out there all the time. He's going to consolidate the lineup to be a true playoff roster. Guys aren't going to see a lot of minutes. I mean, I don't know if games like Hayes is not going to play that much. He played 12 minutes last few games. He's our only big. It's fine. We're playing small ball. It's going to be a different game. It's going to play very differently. But JJ's created a great way to counter, the way that a lot of teams have been playing offense. I watched us go into zone a few times recently. I think he's going to pull it a lot more in the playoffs. I don't know. The coaching is just a tier above almost every team in the league right now. And I'm not just saying that because, I believe in JJ, but I think that if you watch the product on the court, the Lakers adapt in a way that a lot of teams can't do right now. So I think that they can beat almost any team in the West. I really only worry about the Thunder. My main concern, I know it's overzealous to think about, is actually I don't think that they beat the Celtics. That's my main concern. I think they beat the Cavs if they get there. I don't think it's something to think about now, but I think it's going to be very tough. If they do get to that point, I think if they beat the Thunder, they can beat anyone, is what I'll say. And experience matters a lot in the playoffs, no matter how many times people tell you it doesn't. And you talking about a guy in Luka who has probably the best experience of any young player in the playoffs right now. And then, LeBron, who's LeBron. I think they got, a real shot.
What scares me I still have the Lakers winning this series, but I really wanted, I said it to my friends, I wanted the Warriors as the Lakers matchup, and I'll tell you why, because this isn't a one-game thing where, you can rely on not having a big for a game to win a game. But this is a 7-game series, and you need to win 4 games. And I think, and I've said this since the trade when they lost AD, I think the lack of size, especially against this Timberwolves team, is going to hurt them. If you look last year in the Mavs series, where there was, obviously the superstar backcourt of Luka and Kyrie, but they had always on the floor to make Luka that much more threatening was another big at all times under the basket. Whether it was Lively, whether it was Gafford, whether it was the athleticism of DJJ, or, all the players, surrounding him with size. Like Jordan said earlier, Hayes hasn't been getting a lot of the minutes lately. And them running small ball, I think, could, take away from what I think they want Luka specifically to do. And, LeBron is, as great as he is, and, he's and as good as Reeves is, it's different when it comes to a 7-game series than it is for Kyrie to take over a game. And I think that they might just be outsized, and I don't know how well they will be able to respond to that in a 7-game series. If they are hitting their shots like they have been, I think they'll be okay. But I think they're gonna, without having size, I think it takes away from how successful they were last year when they played the Timberwolves compared to this year.
I will say that there's two different variables from last year we got to remember. So one, Cat's not on the team, which I think is the most massive variable. Randall is not Cat. I don't know how many different
they're just
ways
different. They're just different.
Well, no, they are different. But the big difference here is that Cat's taller. I mean, Cat has the height advantage. He's a true big. Randall's guardable. I mean, I think Vanderbilt can guard him. I think that Rui can play good, at least solid defense. He's gotten a lot better this year at defending. I think Luka can potentially guard him on some possessions. I think it's very realistic that Randall can be kind of tempered. Cat was my biggest fear, honestly, if we had to face him, but we aren't. I'll also say that the biggest thing I've noticed is the ability to adapt without a big has worked actually for the last month or two because they've been shooting the lights out. I mean, this team went from being like the 27th, I think it was 27th ranked team in threes attempted per game to second in threes attempted per game since the Luka trade.
Well, it's almost like getting a dynamic scorer like Luka Doncic would help that
seemingly
go
so.
up.
Right. It doesn't matter. Someone is always going to be open when
Correct.
Luka is on the floor, but the problem is that it's not a 1-game series anymore. It is a 7-game series. Coaches adapt, and Randall. Obviously, I would take Cat as the better overall player, but the thing with Randall is that he is now. Cat wasn't a switchable defender. Mm-hmm. Randall is a guy that can guard the 1 through 5.
That's true.
And although it doesn't, the trade, remember when we were at retreat, we were talking about, when Cat got traded for Randall, that doesn't make sense. But when you look at it, it doesn't make sense for when it comes to scoring, but when it comes to overall matchups, this is a better fit for the Timberwolves. And the fact that they ran into the Lakers round 1, where Randall's going to be on LeBron, Reeves, and Luka, Ant's going to be on all three of them. I mean, they have, and they, not to mention Jaden McDaniels, they have a bunch of switchable, versatile defenders to where I think it could just affect the way the Lakers play in a 7-game series. Again, one game, yeah, give me the Lakers. But when it comes to adjustments and how coaches want to play their style of basketball in every game, it's going to be different. That's where it concerns me. But I still have the Lakers winning this series. I think they just have the more overall talent. Obviously, they have the best player on the floor, maybe the best player in the world.
You can say that about 2 of their players, which is the insane part
the
about
fact
it.
that you can
Seriously.
debate a 40-year-old being the best player on the team
it's crazy.
is insane. But no, I think they just have the more overall talent and the home court advantage, which is why I'm going to give them the edge. But I just think during this playoff run, until they have an offseason to go out and get a guy, unfortunately they couldn't bring in Mark Williams, which is unfortunate because having Mark Williams with this team would look unbelievable. But I think Lakers fans are, just for this specific series, obviously they're not going to miss AD because they have Luka. I think they're going to miss the effect of AD when it comes to 7-game series with this current team.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely would have to imagine that, it's going to be a different feel for the Lakers in the playoffs, and not having that big presence in the middle is definitely going to potentially cause some issues. Thankfully, Rudy Gobert is not exactly It's a great matchup for the Lakers, and like you were saying, Jordan, that they don't really have a scoring big guy, so you don't have anyone to worry about there.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Gobert in the post versus anybody. He's not skilled enough.
I think guys like Vanderbilt can hold him in check.
Right.
He might score, but whatever. I mean, that's
so how do we look at the rest of the West? We've got the Nuggets versus the Clippers. Obviously, that's Jokic. I mean,
that's the Clippers were a really, really surprising team this season, and we didn't really have any expectations for them. But they are a good team.
I assume Kawhi's healthy.
Kawhi's
right
healthy, and he's playing one of the best basketball of his career, which is crazy to say. But Kawhi has played 40 minutes a game the last few weeks, and he is putting up 30+ points a game. They got Harden, who has just. The narrative with Harden is just unbelievable, man. I mean, he's made the playoffs every single season of his career, and he's just not slowing down. He's unbelievable. And, with Ivica Zubac taking that next step to being literally an all-star center, in my opinion, they have a lot of pieces when you have Norman Powell and Derrick Jones Jr. I don't know how the Nuggets, now without Michael Malone, we'll see how...
Yeah, that was a weird situation.
That was a very weird situation. I don't understand why not just wait till after the season, because now you put all your players in like a weird predicament where this is the first playoff series we're playing without our coach, so how do we adjust? I don't know who's gonna win this series. I really don't. If I had to put money on it, give me the Clippers. I think the Clippers are going to shock up a lot of people this series.
I actually think this is, so first off, this is going to be absolute cinema to watch. I think this is going to be a fantastic series. I don't trust the Nuggets right now. Their roster this year has been very tumultuous. They've had some serious issues with shooting. They've had some defensive issues. Jamal Murray is one of the most inconsistent players that exists. Michael Porter Jr. is very inconsistent.
I like the stat with Jokic is that when he's on the floor, it's like they're like plus whatever, but when he's off the floor, it's like the second worst plus minus in the history of basketball.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon is an incredible defender, but he's not consistent offensively. He doesn't get fed. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I hate saying this. I'm not a big fan of this team, but I think the Clippers take the series. I think it's going to be a 6-game series. It could go to 7. It could be a fantastic series. Jamal Murray has the ability to elevate in the playoffs, but I don't see it. I think this year, Clippers are going to make a little run. At least this first round, I think they make it out.
They have to play the Thunder in the second round, so we'll see.
And I think that's a great matchup for them. Honestly, I think it's one. I think they're one of the only teams that can threaten the Thunder in the West, and I think the Thunder still win that. But I would take the Clippers the way they're playing right now. I think everyone was banking. I mean, I talked a lot to you early in the season, Chase, about how if Kawhi wasn't healthy, this team was screwed basically. But he's healthy, so you're only factoring in the variables that are there today. The playoffs are about to start. And as long as Kawhi is healthy, this team can contend. And I hate saying that so much because I really don't like the Clippers. But let me tell you something. Like, they have a crazy good team, and getting rid of PG was addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
They have maybe the best pure guard of the last potentially the best pure guard of the last 15 years on their team. I mean, it's debatable obviously, but he's in that conversation, which is crazy. Harden is just. He's the engine. I mean,
he's not fun to play. He's not fun.
He's the engine in the playoffs. He even though people talk about how he's choked all this stuff, You go back and watch those Rockets teams. I mean, he was carrying those teams to where they were.
You take that
and,
Durant Warriors team to 7 games, I think.
They
7 games?
would have won if
Yeah.
Chris Paul doesn't get hurt. Honestly,
Yeah.
they missed 27 straight threes in one of those games. I mean, there's so many different situations that came up that got in the way of them succeeding, and you can blame Harden for some of those things, but the guy clearly has the ability to get them there. And with Kawhi being there too, who just does not falter in the playoffs, I'm picking the Clippers for sure.
All right, so we're gonna kind of speed run a little bit through these.
for it.
You've got the Thunder versus. I'm taking Thunder over Mavericks and
To the Thunder over whoever they
Grizzlies.
face.
Yeah,
Whoever
whoever
they
they
face,
face, it
I'm
doesn't
taking the
matter.
Thunder. And then you've got the. I don't want to call them a surprise, but they're a bit of a surprise because they've not been good. But this rebuild has been highly successful for the Houston Rockets.
Of course.
They have acquired a ton of young talent, and you got to think the Spurs are looking at that and thinking that's where they're going to be in a few
Sure.
years.
Yeah, totally.
And so, I mean, give me the Rockets in this series, but I mean, it's one of those you've got this potentially next great. I don't call them a dynasty, but this potentially great next team for the next several years versus the old guard, versus the old king of the West, which is the Warriors. So it's gonna be a fun series to see that matchup
You know, what's funny is that the Warriors are actually favored going into this series, which is
as a 7 seed.
as a 7 seed, which is kind of surprising. But then you got to remember, look,
Curry.
Curry, of course.
It's not just that.
It's the experience. You know, people talked about last year when the Mavs played the Thunder. You know, the Thunder were the #1 team all year, and they were, you know, they're so young, they never had this experience. You know, but they're so talented, and they ran into, you know, Luka and Kyrie,
buzzsaw.
who have had the experience. And not to say it was an easy series for the Mavs, because obviously every single game was a bloodbath. I mean, they had to work so hard. And Kyrie after the series said that was the hardest series I've ever played.
I think me and
That
you.
was sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
I think I said this before, like before the series happened. I'm like, this reminds me of the Rangers against the Orioles,
Right.
Yeah.
where it's
You
they're
did bring that
really
up last year. Yeah.
great team, but they don't know what they're doing yet.
Right.
Anyway, continue.
And that
what
was
you were.
that was kind of how the Thunder the path was. You know, obviously it was an unbelievable series, but when you have, you know, 2 Hall of Famers with Luka and Kyrie who have had that experience, Thunder didn't have that yet. And as good of a team as they were, you know, outside of Shea, nobody really performed. You know, Jalen Williams, who was their second guy, didn't have a good series. Chet Holmgren didn't have a good series. Now they're a better team this year, especially with the addition of Hardenstein. They have, you know, a true 5 now, because Chet wasn't, you know, he's not 5. Everybody knows that. He was playing out of his role. But, you know, they've got that experience under their belt now, and that's what makes them more dangerous. And we'll see what happens. But I think the Thunder or going back to the Rockets, sorry. I think the Rockets aren't there yet. They haven't had this experience. So I'm going to take the Warriors in this series, and the Rockets will, you know, next year, if they're right back in this position, I think they learn from this.
I'll be quick about this. I think the Rockets are the Thunder of last year. I think you said it well.
Yeah.
I think they're a year or two away from being able to really play with the big dogs. Now, if they won the series, would I be surprised? No, not at all. I think it's possible. I think it's going to be a good series.
Totally agree.
I'm taking the Warriors. I think Jimmy Butler has changed this team in a lot of ways. I hate the way that he acted in Miami. It makes me so pissed. I think it's one of the worst ways to treat a team. I hate being like just so rude on the way out of a team that celebrated you for so many years. But you know what? He's playing some great basketball right now, and they're playing great as a team. And I'm taking the Hall of Fame coach, the Hall of Fame players. I'm gonna go Warriors, and I'd say 7. I mean, it's gonna be a tight series, but that's what I go with.
And I'm going to take the Cavs over either the Hawks or the Heat. I
Easily,
think we're all
not
going
a
to do
question.
that.
Not a
So
question.
then you've got Pacers Bucks.
That's
I
a
mean,
very tough series.
It's a very tough series because I feel like they're very evenly matched.
Who's
teams.
the 3 seed? Who's the 3 seed in that series?
It's the 4 or 5.
Oh, it's a 4-5. Okay.
the
it's-
Pacers are the higher seed, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna say give me the Bucks because I just think Giannis and his star power.
Damian Lillard
is-
just got
is-
cleared today from his blood clot as well.
But, he's
is-
not. They didn't say he was going to play.
I don't know if he's playing or not, but he
Yeah.
got cleared. So I would assume that he makes an appearance at some point in this series.
It's gonna be a tight series though.
Oh yeah, totally. They always are. The last year they
So
were.
here, quick.
yeah.
I'll take the Bucks. Chase,
Yeah, I'll take the Bucks.
Jordan.
Giannis is my favorite player that's not a Laker. I'm actually going to go Pacers. I know it sounds crazy. I think Pacers in 7, I think, is
I want to ask you a
realistic.
question. Was your favorite player that was not a Laker? Is he now a Laker? Before February 2nd.
I actually would say it was either Luka or Giannis. They were pretty much tied for me.
I was just curious.
Yeah, but well, I say this because Giannis has always been my East guy. You know,
Okay,
you
that's fair.
just pick a guy in the other conference that you can root for. He's my East guy, but I mean, Luka was definitely my favorite that wasn't on the list.
And also
for
to
sure in the West.
compliment Jordan and a lot of other Laker fans around the world. You know, Jordan feels. You know,
Hey, it's not me making noise today. It's Jordan. No, it's usually because I kicked the table or
But you know, Jordan's one of those Lakers fans who just feels awful for the city of Dallas
course.
and the Mavs fans, and you know, it's as happy, obviously, as all Laker fans are. And I've seen, I was surprised to see how much Laker fans were, a lot of Laker fans were upset they lost AD because of how much AD did for them and how good of a player AD is. But, they can be okay with that, obviously, because they get Luka in return. But
that softens the blow a little bit.
Listen, I love Luka. I want him to win. I'm happy he's on my team. Me wanting him to win didn't change, if that makes sense. I would have been happy if the Mavs won. I live in Dallas. For me, I just it's convenient for me. I get to root for probably my favorite player in the West. I would say that's not. I mean, I love LeBron. I always will. But really, probably my favorite player in the West. Realistically, that's not a 40-year-old. I can root for him every day on my team, and it's a blessing. But I do wish that it wasn't at a cost of all my friends and all the people around me. So, but yes, I would say going back to the series, I would say Pacers. Pacers in 6, Pacers in 7. If the Bucks win the series, I'm not shocked. It's a coin flip, in my opinion.
All right, here we go. We got Knicks, the 3-seeded Knicks versus the 6-seeded Pistons. Pistons are really young. I just don't think they're ready. But I think if they have a great offseason, I think they could easily be a top 3 seed next year. But give me the Knicks. It's going to be a tight series, maybe 6 games. But I think the Knicks take care of the Pistons.
I agree. I think the Pistons can take one. I mean, they're a really surprising team. And, now that Cade Cunningham has had a full year of being healthy, people are really understanding how good of a player this guy is.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been healthy the last few years. And
they don't have Monty Williams.
And the Pistons don't have a terrible head coach running the team. And they actually did stuff in the offseason. And, the draft picks have hit. And Jalen Duran and Nassar Thompson. And they're just really showing how deep of a team they are. But, yeah, I think the Knicks, they've been there. They're the better team.
It's not just that they've been there. The Knicks are a better team than they were last year. I want to clarify this. I think the Knicks can contend.
Carlton Towns is
you added a
great
guy,
compliment to Brunson.
Well, Brunson has already been amazing, and you could argue that Cat's better. And that's the crazy part about this. I mean, you're talking about two guys that are all-star LNBA level talents.
I think Cat was the best player on that Knicks team this year. Just overall statistics.
I would argue that the Knicks are going to win the series in 5. I don't think the Pistons are even going to make it a series, honestly. And I think the Pistons are a good team. I just don't think that they. I think Jalen Brunson, if you gave me a guy in crunch time right now in the East to take over a game, he's one of the top guys on that list for me.
Totally.
And then Cat the rest of the game, I mean, he's just a great player.
All right, and then the last one we got Celtics Magic. I mean,
Celtics.
I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory. The Magic are just so much better. Wait a second. No.
Even though the Celtics are the 2 seed, they're still the team to beat. They're still the best team in the NBA.
Celtics are the best team in the NBA until proven otherwise, in my opinion.
They said one of the best lineups of all time, and there's literally nothing you can do to counter their lineups. You just have to hope they miss shots.
And they basically, to be honest with you, they did exactly what a lot of those teams years ago did. Like even the Warriors teams that weren't the 1 seed but were really good. You had it with the Cavs teams that were stacked but ended up as the 3 seed or 4 seed. They kind of coasted. They knew they'd be where they'd be. Took care of their players, and now they're here.
Yeah.
Well, that's the basketball playoffs. I don't know who I'm rooting for.
That's what I'm saying. When hopefully the Mavs just lose to Memphis,
I just don't know.
It's just easy to root for the Lakers. But
we'll see.
We'll
but
see
here we
happens,
go.
Yeah.
We are now going to move to the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I think I'm going to call it here just because I
all right, Jordan.
Going, but thank you guys for having me.
Yes, sir. It was great to see you.
Go Stars, and hopefully it all goes the right way.
And go White Sox. If you don't know, Jordan is about the weirdest combination of sports fans I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's right.
He's a Stars fan in hockey, Lakers fan in basketball, Chicago White Sox fan in baseball, and then a New Orleans Saints fan in football.
Oh, just wait till football season. I'm so excited to talk about Derek Carr's
not wanting
issues
to go,
going on right now, and
going quarterback at number 9,
and how great our team, how amazing our team, our owners are, and all the great things they do for people.
Well, so. Jordan, thank you for being on the show.
Of course, my
we'll
pleasure.
see you next time.
Take care, guys.
And there goes Mr. Jordan Swidler. So now we move to the Stanley Cup playoffs. We've got Winnipeg versus St. Louis. We've got Dallas, Colorado, Vegas, Minnesota, Kings, Edmonton in the West. Out east, we've got Toronto. That was loud. Hold on. I'm sorry. That thing is spiked in my ear. We got Toronto, Ottawa, Lightning, Florida, Washington, Montreal, and then Carolina and New Jersey. We'll start out east this time. We'll set it up. So let's go Toronto, Ottawa. I mean, it's
good for the Senators.
What?
Good for the Senators. Another one of those kind of reminds.
Good for them.
Comparing to the Pistons, I think they're my NHL comparison to the Pistons, a team that you didn't expect to be there, who had a kind of down year last year, who have found a way to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and then you have the Lightning. They've lost some of their talent, but they're still a very dangerous team.
They've been there.
And then you've got Florida, and I'm going to take Florida in that series. But they defending Cup champions.
Yeah.
I mean that counts for something. Then obviously you have probably the biggest story out of the East, which is that Alex Ovechkin. I don't know if we mentioned this. I guess we may have just forgotten. I'm sorry. Alex Ovechkin set a record, a very important record. He now is the all-time leading scorer in goals in NHL history. He passed the great one. He passed Gretzky. His assists are nowhere near.
Yeah, he'll never pass him in points, but goals.
Goals it's great for him. It's great for the sport to have that. It was great that Gretzky was not like a sourpuss, to put it mildly, about it. He was very nice. He was very cordial about it. He was very it was a very easy transition.
It was a different reaction than Kareem when LeBron passed him in total points.
Kareem looked pissed.
Yeah, he did not look happy. He was clapping. He was there, but he did not look happy.
Same with Hank Aaron. He was really not looking forward to Bonds breaking his record. But give me the Capitals. I mean, that feels self-explanatory, but I mean, I really feel like they could go to all the way to the Cup, just because by the way, I don't know why everyone gets like a Canadian accent when you say Cup for Stanley Cup. It's really funny. But give me Washington. And then you've got New Jersey. They've been dealing with a ton of injuries. They've had just some problems over there. And then you've got Carolina. They're this really weird team that had Rantanen and then traded Rantanen, and now they have Stankoven. And so I'm happy for Stankoven. I'm happy for Stank and hoping that they can make a run. But give me Carolina. But they just play a really weird brand of hockey.
Yeah.
Then you've got the West. The West, it feels like it's about to be a battle royale with no guns and like switchblades. It feels like it's about to
very
be
comparable to the NBA.
It's about to be a knife fight now over in the West. We'll start with the Kings in Edmonton. Obviously, the stories with Edmonton. Obviously, I believe McDavid and Draisaitl are healthy, but I know they dealt with injuries throughout the year.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
Obviously, you have, and I am blanking on their goalie's name, Stuart Skinner. Because we heard that name you think it'd be ingrained into my brain, but give me Edmonton in that series. I think there's a few teams that can win the Cup in the West, and that's one of them. Then you've got Vegas and Minnesota. Minnesota has dealt with so many injuries, but then I can't remember his name. I'm trying to learn hockey names. Like, their big player came back. He had like 4 goals in his first game back. It was, insane. But give me Vegas. They have the talent. They have the experience. And like I've said before, I think there are 5 teams out in the West that could win the Cup. And unfortunately, Minnesota's not one of them, and Vegas is, and that's Vegas, Edmonton, Dallas, Colorado, and Winnipeg. Poor St. Louis, but I mean, it's just the nature of these things.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you've got the President's Trophy winner, Winnipeg Jets, versus the St. Louis Blues. Obviously, give me Winnipeg. Their defense is just outstanding and again, I'm going to blank on their goalie's name, but when he's playing on par, there's nothing you can do. Yeah. Literally nothing. It feels like when we faced Skinner last year, and it felt like there's just nothing we can do against this guy. And then you've got, obviously, as Stars fans, the intrigue. You've got Dallas and Colorado. We'll start with Colorado. Obviously, you've got Cale Makar. You've got McDavid. McKinnon. Yeah. I get those two mixed up. The two Mick. The second I said it, I went, that doesn't sound right. And I looked at Chase. Chase was like, that's not right. You've got Nathan McKinnon. You've got Cale Makar. You've got Brock Nelson. You've got a really good hockey team that's playing really well. And they're running into another team that is not playing well on a 7-game losing streak to end the year. Who has it worse than us? Sagan's back, which is clutch. A 6-month recovery he did in 4.5. Yeah. So I applause to him for doing that. But it looks like we're going to be without Heiskanen for the series. Yeah. Which is really tough because you need him. You're facing up against the best scoring defenseman in the league, and McKinnon or McDavid, whatever his name is, and whoever that. I mean, they're both. I mean, they're probably two of the top two players in the league. Yeah. So I mean, it's like it's easy to mix them up, and then to top it all off, Chase, you've lost 7 straight in like brutal fashion too. Like you had that Canucks game that I was at that was just like watching, and it was awful. You've been blown out by a few teams. It is just ugly. To top it all off, Chase, Jason Robertson's hurt. And we don't know what his timetable is. He might be out for a series. He might be out for a game. He might be out for nothing. But it doesn't sound like it's nothing. And that's bad. That's really bad. He's our best player. Yeah. He's our best player. And he's hurt. Which is just it's so fun. to be a Stars fan right now. It was great about a month ago.
Yeah.
It was great 2 months ago when we had Rantanen and it was like this excitement, especially coming off the Luka trade, and now it's just kind of died down a little bit. But hopefully they pull this out. I mean, it's gonna be a knife fight for a series.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate the way the Stars ended their regular season because you want to always go into the playoffs on a high note.
Yeah,
and the Stars were most likely locked into playing Colorado no matter what anyway. But they really just played some bad hockey the last couple weeks, and that's not good. I mean, you can't sugarcoat it. Really, that's not good. You don't want to go into the playoffs when you can't afford to play the way that you're playing. You were playing these games, and yeah, you were playing bad, but guess what? I mean, you were locked into that 2 seed, and it didn't really matter. I mean, when it comes to the seeding, because you weren't catching Winnipeg anyway. But just from overall, just how they're playing, it's not good. And then to go into a playoff series versus a team that is playing good, it's not ideal, to say the least. The goalkeeping has been bad from both DeSmith and Ottinger. The offense has been bad as they haven't been able to put the ball or the puck in the net. And then just the defending has been bad. Like, every single aspect of the Stars game has been bad this last couple of weeks. And that's just not something you can afford in the playoffs because every game matters so much. But I'm interested to see how DeBoer gets the guys back on track and what's the strategy going into the series. How do these players overcome the last couple of weeks of bad hockey? And I still got high hopes for this team. I still think this team is a cup contender, and I know hopefully they can get through this round. Obviously, for many reasons, but obviously to get Heiskanen back potentially in the second round, which is something that they desperately need right now. But I'm excited. A team in Dallas that's good, that has high expectations. As a fan, there's nothing more you can ask for. You got to just wash away what's happened the last couple of weeks and just be ready to hopefully enjoy another, postseason experience.
Again, I was trying to find this, and I haven't found it from the person that actually did it, and so I'm very sorry I can't give him credit. But I did find it. It was confirmed that the only other team that has happened once for a team to lose 7 games and win the Stanley Cup, and that was the 0-2 Red Wings. They won they lost their last 7 games, and they lost the first 2 games of the playoffs. So it has happened. Hopefully, it's lightning strikes again, but I'm worried. They've lowered my expectations a little bit for what they can do in the playoffs, and I'm expecting despair and hoping for joy, and that's the best way I can put it. Then you got the Texas Rangers. Look, Rangers are a weird team right now. They've won the first 2 from the Angels. The Angels are not that good of a team. Kind of happy people are starting to see that. But they're 11-7. They're a game and a half up on the Angels. They've won back-to-back against them, like I said. They've won 3-1 last night and 4-0 the day before after that brutal, and I mean brutal, road trip to Chicago and Seattle where you went 1-5.
Yeah.
Very bad road trip for them. The offense is starting to get more hits. They're starting to get more timely hits, which is a very good thing. The pitching is remaining very immaculate. I had a tweet that has gotten 23 likes so far, which is a lot for me, which is that Mike Maddox is a pitching wizard. And I really think so.
Yeah.
And clearly 23 other people agree with me on that, so I must be onto something. But hopefully the offense can continue to get these hits. Hopefully Jock comes around. I'm not worried. Some people... Not saying Chase, but some people are not cut out for baseball. So I'm joking. So I understand the concern. Trust me, I do. And you're not the only one that has this concern.
No, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to say I'm not. I was going to bring it up early and later. It was like, I'm not typically one to just go ahead and, this early into the season and be concerned. But like, is it with Jock specifically? Is it, right? Is it the right thing to be concerned?
No.
He looks terrible in the box.
In my opinion, you should never be concerned about anything in April in baseball.
I totally agree with you.
once we get to June 1st and we can see if he's still hitting below 100, at that point, yeah, it's time to worry that something's wrong. He just doesn't look right now, and that happens. Unfortunately, he's starting the season off slow, which makes it look incredibly worse.
Yeah.
I think my dad was telling me if this happened in July, if he had a skid like this, you'd barely notice. You'd be like, oh, he's just not hitting anymore. That's kind of whatever. Right? I mean, he's like a career 235 hitter, something like that.
Right.
So he's not exactly hitting 350. He's going to hit about 230, maybe 240, 20 to 30 home runs. That's what you signed him for. And unfortunately, those just are not coming right now. I mean, if he was like Trout's not even hitting 200, but he's got 6 home runs.
Right.
So it skews how people are viewing his offensive season as I drop my pen.
Round of applause.
It's got to happen every show. It's a running gag at this point.
I was happy to see Seager, really get the barrel of the bat last night, and
He just missed that one.
just missed it for a 4 for 4, but 3 for 4 in the night. Got his average up to like 293 or something like that.
That's the thing. He was hitting crap, and now he's 293.
Right. I told my dad was like when we were watching the Seattle series together when I was home for the weekend. He was like, Seager's batting. What was it? It was like high 100, low 200, whatever. Few home runs. I was like, don't worry, he'll get there. And, I said this last year, he'll be fine. Now he's up to almost 300. So I mean,
it happens.
But that's again your superstar player. But with Jock, when I'm watching him, I know how good of a hitter he can be when it comes to hitting the ball 500 feet. But his swings just look sloppy, and he just looks uncomfortable. And I'm not one to be concerned with people this early into the season, but with him, just the way that he's swinging the bat, it just something doesn't seem right to me, and he just looks really off. And I'm just starting to have a little bit of a concern for him.
Well, yeah, no disagreement here. I'm not going to disagree with you and say that he looks great. He definitely looks lost at the plate. But I think that we have to remember that he's been a great hitter in his career. He's not a batting average guy. He's a slugging guy. And I know he's not slugging right now, but you just got to give him some time. He's starting off slow, and maybe he's trying to force it. Maybe he just needs these few days off. I don't know, but I'm not worried about Jock right now. You signed him for a reason. I trust Chris Young. I trust the team. I trust the coaching. And right now, you're finding ways to win games. I think that's what's important, because your expected win-loss right now is 7-11, and you're 11-7.
Right.
So you are definitely finding ways to scrap out wins.
Tonight's a big game.
Yeah, tonight
because we obviously know what we have coming up for the weekend, and if they play the way they're playing, they are. Let's just be real. They're not winning any of them.
Well, here's the thing. May disagree with you there, because right now against the Dodgers, your scheduled pitchers are Jacob deGrom.
I've seen him, yeah,
and I know deGrom has been struggling. He claims it's a mechanical thing, so who am I to disagree with Jacob deGrom? And then you've got Nathan Eovaldi, game 2. I feel pretty good about that. And then you've got the league leader in ERA, Tyler Mahle,
right,
game 3. So I feel...
And the Dodgers can throw out whoever they want, and it's all aces.
They're throwing Glass now in game 3. They're throwing Sasaki in game 2.
Yamamoto. Right.
And they're throwing Yamamoto on Friday.
I mean, unbelievable, yeah.
So I look at this, and I understand why people are, well, it's the Dodgers, but they're not exactly... 130 win team right now.
No,
they're having some issues.
What are they, 14-6, something like that? I mean,
yeah, but look at this division.
Yeah,
hold on, this division is just the most screwed up thing in the world. The poor Diamondbacks are 11-7, the same record as us. They're in 4th place.
Yeah, and the Rockies are last, and then
the Rockies are 3-15, but.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are 14-6 in third place. The Giants are 13-5, and the San Diego Padres, who I think Brady might have predicted was going to have a good year, is 15-4. They're having a great season. And you look at the Cubs; they're atop the. We're just going to go through the rounds here. Cubs are a game above the Brewers; they're 12-9. The Mets are a game above the Phillies; they're 11-7. You've got the Tigers are a half game above Cleveland at 10-8. The poor White Sox are 4-13. The Yankees are a half game over Toronto at 11-7, and then the Rangers, of course, a game and a half over the Angels. We'll continue to update baseball, but I'm not worried about Jock, and we'll just continue to find ways to win games. That's all. That's all that matters to me.
Jock just needs that one hit. I feel like just to, 2 guys in scoring position, 2 outs, come up clutch, get a base hit,
430 feet.
hit it out, get a
Yeah.
base hit, bring home some runs, get some motivation going, get some, but he hasn't been able to hit the ball. So I just think even a base hit, just score a run, just get something for you. And that's what I think can turn, his confidence.
Well, then we move now to football. And, of course, we are now officially 1 week from Brady's Christmas. It is the NFL draft. Could not be more excited. Still am grinding out player evaluations. I am not, if you cannot hear it in my voice, I am not getting much sleep right now. Staying up late, and when I wake up, it's immediately right to my computer just to continue to do them. Still have a lot of players on the docket to get done. Right now, we're at 94. And we actually, so if you look at my board, the only 2 players that I have a 4th round grade on that are not watched are Brashard Smith and Woody Marks. Past that, none of those guys are watched, but everyone from Ollie Gordon up is somebody that I have watched.
That's a 4th round? You only have 2 4th round?
No. I have a bunch of 4th round grades right now. But I'm saying that's where my cutoff is for my evaluations. Is this 94 right now?
I see.
And I'm trying to pick which players. I'm trying to strategically pick them because I don't really want to have to grade a player in the 6th, because then it kind of throws off how many I did it. I like to have a nice easy count, like the first. Say I grade 130 players. I like the first 130 to be the guys I graded on the board, and then it starts the guys I didn't. Right? Because I feel like I have an advantage of seeing somebody.
Right.
No, I have several 4th round grades.
No, yeah, I know.
The notable ones are Devin Neal's my highest, the running back from Kansas. But this is where my quarterbacks pretty much are. I have finished quarterbacks, and I have finished my running back evaluation. So no more for those positions. I have Jalen Milton. So here's the evaluations that we've done. Made some big changes. Cam Ward has been downgraded after a second evaluation to a top of the 2nd round grade. He's still the 20th player on my board. That's probably not going to change, but he's got the green tags or the red tag. So now 19 first round grades from me. We did upgrade Shadur Sanders to a late 2. He's now at 54. He's right between. He's behind Nick Emenwari, the safety from South Carolina, and he's right above R.J. Harvey, the running back from UCF, who's one of my favorite players in this draft. Then you get to the 3rd round. I have one quarterback in the 3rd round. Obviously, it's Jackson Dart, who is just behind Jaden Higgins, the receiver from Iowa State, and just above Jordan James, the running back from Oregon. To kind of show my stack, you see where he is. I have a late 3 on him. Developmental quarterback. He definitely shows the signs and the athletic ability.
He's going round 1, I feel.
That seems to be the perception about him, is that he's going to go round 1. I think it's a mistake, but I also thought Bo Nix was a mistake. So, but I think I'm proven right in that, okay, but with Bo, you've got to get him the right coaching. If you don't get him the right coaching, there's no point in having him.
I think that the top 2 teams that Dart has been targeted to were the Saints and the Steelers. So.
And I mean, Dart, my player comp for him is Bo Nix. I have him at the same place on my board. I have very similar things. Dart's got great arm strength. He's a good runner, 3-year starter. Past Eli Manning, he's the all-time leading passer for Ole Miss.
Yeah.
He throws the ball very clean. His accuracy can get a little spotty. He forces too many throws into tight coverage. It's him trusting his arm too much and not making the right play. His processing speed is going to need to speed up for the NFL. I feel like a lot of stuff was spoon-fed to him from Lane Kiffin. And that's kind of how I felt about Bo Nix. I felt like Bo Nix was a guy that had a lot of things that were just kind of spoon-fed to him in college. And Sean Payton did a lot of those same things, and it works. Dart, he's a development project, but I mean, he could be a great starter. He's just one of those, I don't like taking those guys in the 1st.
Yep.
But that's me. It's my personal evaluation. And then looking at the rest of the quarterbacks, they're pretty much, I have one quarterback that I graded in the 5th, and that's Riley Leonard, who's above Jalen Lane, the receiver kick punt returner from Virginia, Virginia Tech. And then he's just below Keandre Lambert-Smith, the receiver from Auburn.
Yeah.
So actually, no, I lied. I can't have that now because of how I evaluated him. There will be a disconnect between that. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. I can still count how many I evaluated. I'm shooting for 150. So
are you only 4th round quarterbacks? Ewers and Milrow?
No. You're missing a couple.
So
it's actually pronounced Shuck.
Shuck.
I don't know why it's pronounced Shuck, but that's how they pronounce it. It looks like show, but it's Shuck. Thank you, Dane Brugler, for the pronunciations. I butcher yours. So here's my rankings for the quarterbacks in the fourth. We've got Milroe as the top one available. Then you've got Tyler Shuck, then Quinn Ewers, then Will Howard, then Kyle McCord. So, and all those guys are fourth-round grades for me. And I like them all. I do. Shuck, big guy, kind of reminded me of Brock Osweiler, just a little bit shorter. Milroe reminds you a lot of Tyrod Taylor when you watch him. Very great runner, not a great thrower. Ewers, he's Will Grier, probably a career backup that maybe can start a few games here and there. Will Howard, obviously super competitive, great leader. Obviously, when you win the national championship, reminded me a lot of Marcus Mariota, backup that can spot start. And then you have, Shuck reminded me a lot of. He was a mix between Jacoby Brissett and Brock Osweiler to me. And then Kyle McCord's a lot like Ryan Fitzpatrick, a little bit shorter, pretty good arm, very accurate. Probably going to be career backup that can make spot starts. And that's just kind of how I view the quarterbacks in this draft. But there's a ton of intrigue at the top, especially once you get past the Patriots, because the Jaguars have been linked to about 4 players. The Jets have been linked to about 4 different players. The Giants at 3 have been linked to. It's going to be really fun on draft night because we just don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. Outside of number 1, you don't know.
Don't. And obviously we will be live. Still trying to meet with the people to get that all sorted out, but we will be live for the draft day 1 and day 2. So please remember to tune in for the second day.
I'll be a little late for day 2.
Chase will be a little late,
but
Seth,
I'll be there.
Seth won't be there at all, but I'm bringing on somebody else for day 2. Who's going to be great. I'm bringing my whiteboard so I can this is going to be school. I'm giving a free football education to anyone that wants to watch. And Seth and Chase, I want to throw them in there. They're my teaching assistants. I guess.
But day 1, we will all be here.
We will all be probably not in this studio, but in a different studio, a little bit, maybe a little better production value. But I'm very excited for the draft. There's just a ton of. This is not like last year, the last few years, where it felt like we knew who everyone was going to be. This is one of those, man, I could see this draft going in 18 different directions.
Yeah.
I could see it being a draft where there are no trades in the first round, and I could see it being a draft where there are 4 or 5. I could see it being a draft where 2 quarterbacks are taken. I could see it being a draft where you get 3 or 4 quarterbacks that are taken because somebody just really believes in their guy. It's going to be, like, I fully expect to get maybe 3 or 4 guys in the mock right, and that's it.
Yeah.
I expect to get.
I have no idea.
I expect to get nothing else right. Just because I just don't know. And to give a Cowboys focus, it certainly feels like we're zeroing in on Matthew Golden as the pick.
Please.
Super happy about that. And even people have asked, would you want him over Ted McMillan? Personally, no. But am I mad about it? No. There are 4 first-round receivers. And I want everyone to understand this because I don't want anyone to overthink it. There are 4 first-round receivers. And I have them ranked like this. McMillan, Burden, Igbuka, Golden. So even though Golden's my 4th guy, I'm happy with any of those 4 being taken at 12.
Totally. 100%.
Because, Golden on my board is at 13. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Burden's at 8, Igbuka's at 10, and McMillan is at 5. So, I'm happy with any of those 4, really. And it certainly feels like that we're zeroing in on receiver. I know Mel Kiper, I think, has his taking Moran Hampton.
We can say we're zeroing in on this whatever, but until I see it happen, I don't believe it. As much as I want us to take Golden, Igbuka, Burden, McMillan.
I think they're going receiver.
I think they will. I think they are too. But
if they don't go receiver but stay offense, it's a running back. But I don't see that. And if they really want to go off the board, I really think they'd be interested in Jahdae Barron and Walter Nolan. Barron fits what they like in corners. They love competitive guys that play hard every snap. He's a lot like Jordan Lewis. And then they love those guys that are just freak athletes that are super explosive on the defensive line. That's Walter Nolan.
Yeah.
And Mozzie was explosive in college. He just hasn't translated that in the NFL.
Right.
Walter Nolan, you see the flashes on tape. You go, wow, there's the guy that was the number 1 recruit in the nation. There he is. I see that. And then there's plays where you're like, he was in? He was there? I didn't even see him. Because he just completely there's nothing. So I would not be particularly happy with Walter Nolan at 12. Trading back and getting him, maybe. Because if he hits, he's the top 10 player in the class. If he misses, it's Robert Kimbiche, and you want to die. Maybe not the off-field stuff, but just like the on-field, But I still maintain I want to trade back. I don't want to pick at 12.
Look, if they could trade back a few picks and still get Golden,
there's been a lot of chatter.
I've seen that. Yeah.
The Steelers at 21. There's been a lot of chatter about the Seahawks at, I believe, 18. The Broncos at 20. Those are kind of the three teams that some people think might be wanting to move up. And 12 would be a great spot. And if you move back that many spots, you may get a second-round pick instead of a third, which I would be ecstatic. I would love an extra day 2 pick. I always love trading back. I love getting extra picks. Even though we have 10 of them in this class, like Chase, do you know what I would do? I would trade back from 12 with Seattle. I'll take their 2. I'll even throw in a 7 for them, right? I'll even throw in one of our 7s. Here's a 7th and our 1st for your 1st and your 2nd. I think they'd do that. Yeah. To move up and get who they really want. I don't know. Maybe they really covet a running back. I cannot remember. I think it's not John Schneider, is it? I think it's John Schneider. Loves his running backs. Loves drafting running backs.
Hopefully Genty just falls to 12. How about that?
Yeah, it is John Schneider. I don't know.
We'll just completely take away everything they wanted to do. But
there's a lot of different scenarios for this draft. And Genty could go at 6. Genty could go at 7. Genty could go at 10. Genty could go at 4. Genty could go at 5. There's so many spots where he could go, but he might fall to 12. We just don't know.
He won't, but we can only dream.
I think that is the best part of this draft is that we don't know. And so draft day is going to be that much more interesting because normally last year, I kind of knew who each player was going to be. I had a good feeling. So I was able to queue up my guide, other write-ups about him to talk about him. This year, I'm going to be quick because I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we will have this. The next podcast episode will not be on Thursday because I want to get an episode released before, and people have a chance to listen to it before the draft.
It'll be our final mock.
With our final mock that we'll be using on draft day to, I had this guy and see who's right. We're not going to do like we did a competition because I don't like having to compete and get things right. But it's one of those, gives us a nice framework of what we think is going to happen. And actually, I read an article today from The Athletic that NFL teams do look at mock drafts. And they do look at, and they don't look at them to like, who do they want to pick, but more like, hey, what would we do if this scenario really did happen? They use it as a way to give them different scenarios, which I think is very smart.
Sure.
And if I was a GM, I'd do that. Bill Belichick did it for how many years? Situational football. Well, in the draft, it's being able to understand what situation you might be in. So we will have the podcast out next Tuesday, so it'll be a little bit shorter, but I think with the Stanley Cup playoffs, with basketball playoffs, with baseball still going on in the draft, we're going to have enough content in this condensed week weekend to be able to talk and have a full episode.
Yeah, the first 2 games, I believe, of each Western and Eastern Conference first round playoffs for the NBA, for the NHL.
Oh, I never mentioned the Stars play Saturday.
Yeah.
I guess I should have mentioned that. We do have home ice, not home court, not home field, not home, but home ice.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys next week for our draft Christmas Eve special, I guess you could call it.
Should be fun. See you guys.